All right, everyone. Are we ready? I see you already, at least. Are we ready? Very good morning. It's very good to see all of you here now. 5 years after last time we had a physical gathering here in Arendal. By the looks of it, a few of you were actually looking back at what happened 5 years ago, yesterday. So anyway, it was good to see you, and it's good to see you here now. So over the next, day and a half, we will obviously hear about how Gard is faring. We will have a good look at what the future has in store for us. Then we will talk a bit about end of life, and that is for offshore units, by the way, so it's not something else. Then quite a few of us have had challenges operating in the US waters, so we will hear from that too. And then again, tomorrow we will look back. This is the 50th anniversary from the first time, both on the P&I and on the hull side, we insured the same rig actually. So obviously Jan Hugo will take us back 50 years. He was then, 20. And then more importantly is actually what is going to happen afterwards, looking forward. So that's where we are. So in the audience, we have obviously the usual suspects, our dear clients. We have our dear brokers. And then more notably, we have also a lot of people who have worked so long that they are no longer working. And the reason for inviting them now is because they have been so supportive of what we've done over the last 50 years. And we want to give them a big hand to because of that. So do talk nicely with them. They are really good people. Just a few practicalities before we start. I don't know, you all received an email from Franziska about the app. This is actually proven. It was downloaded by Tore, and he knows his way around it. So if he can do it, all of you can actually. I think all information is there. If you have any other questions, just ask one who looks local, and hopefully they will know about it. So as always, Rolf Tore, I'll give the word to you first.
Thank you. Yep, dear friends, really nice having you all here in Arendal again. As Magnus said, 5 years since last time, and you are coming stronger as ever and in bigger numbers than ever, and that's something we really appreciate. I would like to say just a few words about how Gard is doing. Just give a little bit of flavor to the 50 years of history we have on offshore energy in Gard and in the Norwegian market now. Just a teaser before Jan Hugo's entertaining presentation tomorrow. And then towards the end, also something about how we are looking at the future. As some of you may have noticed, we released our half year's figures just on Monday this week. The 2022 year was very... Yeah. So now it's working again. Yeah. Last year was very good, but not good enough to invest in better technical equipment. That's why we start this year off even better with a half-year result of close to $60 million. We had it seems to be some kind of problems with somewhere. This might be better. Yep. And then we aim to keep that result through the year so we can buy some new equipment before the offshore seminar coming up in 2 years. The combined ratio net, 99%, slightly higher than what we saw last year, but still within expectations. And then a strong rebound on the investments with an investment result of roughly 61 million before tax and 54 after tax. On the market side, as Magnus said, it's 5 years since we last had the offshore seminar here in Arendal. And for some reason, we have never grown as much as during those years you were not here. So we really hope that we can have a change now, that we actually get some benefit from inviting you, having you here, entertaining you for a few days. So keep up the good work. Joking apart, we are very pleased with the support we get from our members and clients. This is the figures on the P&I Mutual, which has been very strong over the last 5 years, combined also with the good development on the technical results. And then in the commercial markets, certainly there is more volatility. Gard has always been very strong in years where the market is relatively hard, and that is what we have seen now over the last years. This is an example from the hull market. Through a hard market, Gard is able to grow a portfolio quite significantly. And if you look at the hull portfolio overall, we are touching roughly 40% of the world fleet now with the hull portfolio, and as you saw on the previous slide, more than 20% on the P&I portfolio. The figure 8% is when we multiply the overall reach with our average line size. On the energy side, we also see very positive developments, particularly in the renewable areas, and we will come back to that later on when we focus more on the energy and offshore business area. One topic which take up a lot of our time these days are sanctions and the development of the shadow fleet. I don't think we can even call it a dark fleet anymore because it's now turned into a very transparent fleet. It's just a side fleet. If you look at Russia's export of oil last 3 years, that is something like 10 to 12% of the world oil export. And according to analysts, the shadow fleet, which have been built up since the outbreak of the war, now takes up roughly 12% of the global tanker capacity. So it means that we basically have a dual system where we have one global fleet and we have one side fleet just carrying sanctioned cargoes. And the capacity in that fleet basically equals the volume of Russian oil being transported. The problem is that this is certainly a risk factor for all of us which have to comply with the sanction regimes. If you see the trade patterns of sanctioned oil, it's the main stream is actually out from Primorsk in the Baltics, following the coast of the Scandinavian countries, actually basically passing just outside where you're going on the boat trip later today, and then out around Europe, through the Mediterranean, the Suez Canal, and to Asia. We know that many of you are involved in operations in the areas where there is quite heavy traffic by the shadow fleet. And that is a risk to all of us. If something should happen, if there is a collision between a sanctioned unit and one of your units, it is a proper risk. And we cannot guarantee how that is possible to handle because all of us which operate out of US, UK, or the European Union, we are facing restrictions in respect of how we can support if something happens. It's something which we all have to be very much aware of. We will do our utmost to support you if something should happen. But we have to be aware that there are restrictions in respect of our freedom of operation. Gard has very close contact with the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have been able to find practical solutions on issues so far, and we really hope to do that also in the future. But this is something which is, in my opinion, quite scary. How are we going to handle a big casualty if it involves a sanctioned unit? Then, turning to the history of Gard, energy and offshore. 50 years ago, Smevik came out with the first rig at Ekofisk field in the North Sea. 11 Norwegian insurers went together and established the Norwegian oil risk pool. 7 of those companies are today a part of Gard. The other 4 is today a part of the Norwegian Hull Club. So we are still here. The 11 players are here, just represented by 2. And then on the P&I side, Gard and Skuld joined as partners as well for the lower layers, and we established a liability system for oil rigs as well to support the Norwegian shipping industry, which went into the offshore sector. And I think that is really how we would like to work. We would like to develop with our members. We would like to be close to you and meet the needs you have, and that was what happened also 50 years ago. During the 50 years, there has been quite some events. Jan Hugo will come more into details tomorrow. But I think it's just worth mentioning some of the major casualties which we have handled during those 50 years. The one over here is the Alexander Kielland, which happened in 1980. The first major incident in the North Sea. More than 120 people lost their lives. And I still remember very well the face of my teacher coming into the classroom. I was 11 years old when it happened, telling us that one of the boys at school lost his father. It's something which, you know, put a mark on you for life. This is why we are here. We have to avoid these things to happen. The Piper Alpha, even more tragic in respect of numbers. More than 160 people lost their lives in the British sector of the North Sea. And finally, the West Atlas from 2009, which is the biggest environmental disaster on the energy side, which we have handled in Gard. I'm actually quite pleased that it's 14 years since the West Atlas and where we are today. There has been accidents. It has been expensive accidents also since that, but not with the same magnitude in respect of people and environmental consequences. I think what we have as an ethos in Gard, and I think I can also include the Scandinavian insurance market in general, is that we would like to stay very close to our members and clients. We would like to have a service concept which goes beyond what our customers and clients should normally expect. That's why we gather people to share our experience. We do it here during those 2 days. And we started also the Lillehammer Claims Conference as early as 1996 in cooperation with other players in the market. And we aim to be closer to our members also when it comes to advice, sharing knowledge on a day-to-day basis. And last year we produced this guidance to the rules for the mobile offshore units for our members in Gard, so you can go in and go deeper into the meaning of each and every item in your policy. If there is anything, I know that we have plenty of good Gard people in the room which are keen to support you. Should there be anything to discuss, should there be any challenges you need to be informed or discuss about with our people. Then let's look at the financial history of our offshore and energy adventure. It has not always been good. I think it's fair to say that it was a true roller coaster in the early years. In the early 80s, we we were very transparent on results for the mobile offshore units. But I think 1983 was the last year we put the actual results in the annual report. I think maybe the mutual P&I members were not so happy about the offshore results at the time. Because you can see that we had a loss ratio in 1983 of 175%. Claims exceeded 25 million and premiums were south of 15. We went in, I think, all in the market. We wrote risks basically all over the world. And as we will discuss later today, there are certain parts of the world where liability regimes maybe are not so predictable as in other parts. I think a learning point from us in the 80s was that it makes sense to reduce some of the exposure we had in the US. A lot of the losses we had in early days were personal injury claims in the US. But as mentioned, it has been a roller coaster. So it has been some deep valleys and some highlights. And I think what we saw in the period 2000 up until 2005 was very key for Gard. Magne asked me to mention that he was employed in 2001, by the way, if you look at the growth numbers. But this was a very crucial period in Gard's history because we started to take on the management for If, Storebrand Vestas Marine and Energy portfolio back in 1st of July 2000. And we had an agreement with If that we could gradually purchase parts of the portfolio. What we saw in those 5 years was a very strong development on the offshore energy side, particularly the P&I entries for MOUs. And it gave Gard a good surplus those years, which made us able to take up the option to actually purchase the portfolio in full on the 1st of January 2005. So strategically for Gard, this was a very important event, and the offshore MOU product really contributed, making that possible for us at the time. So thanks a lot for the contributions. I think we can live with some deep valleys when we also get some good years in between. And there's a very good complement to the other business we have. We have the P&I mutual business, which are more stable due to the pooling arrangements and so on. We have the whole business where values are normally slightly lower and of course no exposure on the liabilities. So slightly more stability than what we see on the offshore, but offshore contributes very well some years. And then we have the capital in Gard to support you when we have the really bad years, which will come back. We will have other years as well with 175% loss ratio on the energy side, but we're in a position so we can manage that with a strong capital in our back. Then looking towards the future, we will talk more about that tomorrow. As mentioned initially, we started doing offshore and energy business because we wanted to follow our members and clients into their new business areas. And that is still our ethos. That is still what we're going to do. And as you might be aware, we started doing offshore wind back in 2018. And today, offshore wind makes up 38% of our premium on the energy side. So it has been a very good start for a new business line in Gard. This is only one example. We know that there will be new other industries being developed in the oceans over the next decades as well. And we aim to be here to support you. We would like to look at how we can cover new risks, not whether we are going to do it. And I'm sure there will be challenges to find the right solutions, but I can assure that we will do our utmost to do that. And finally, in a complex world, I think it's important to try to do things as simple as possible. And in Gard, we have a
very big quality management system with a lot of documents. But I think this is the first one and the most important one. And I think I have to translate it from Norwegian because it's written before Gard really went international back in 1960 by the office manager at the time, Kåre Blakstad. And he says that during my daily reading of all the outgoing mail from Gard, so he was able to read absolutely all mails being sent out by the staff of Gard at the time, myself included. I have some reflections which I would like to share with you for what it's worth. And then he gives the 4 points as a guidance. Don't write long if you can cut it short. Number 2, don't write complicated when you can write simple. And number 3, don't write cloudy when things are clear. And then I think the 4th point is really good. In Norwegian, it sounds fantastic. but what he really tries to tell us is that cut all the crap. There's a lot more crap around than you really think. So with that, let's try to be precise and clear with our messages, Magne, over the next couple of days. Thank you.
Any questions for Rolf Tore? No? So the takeaway point is basically that the technology failed. He doesn't like guests. And then nor does he like lawyers, judging on the last one. So anyway,